Number 10. Hand glitches. In Bedrock Edition, there were initially some pretty creepy things happening when it came to how your hands interacted with items. Things like food, shields, tools like pickaxes, and weapons like the bow would move into strange positions on the screen, going far off to the side or disappearing completely. This would also affect your visuals when it came to holding a shield and crouching, because the placement of the items seemed to be bugging out whenever you held them. Crouching with a shield would therefore mean that the shield would appear much larger, affecting your view. Not only are these glitches annoying for visuals, but they're also kind of creepy, implying you have no control over your limbs, or that they are moving into weird and maybe disturbing positions while holding items and interacting with them. I also love that one of the fixes for this that people suggested was like, just disable your hands, which is also just like, totally makes sense in the game, but is a creepy thing to say to people. Number 9. First use fail. In Bedrock Edition, one of the mistakes or bugs in the game you will likely have seen is that if you create a tool, the first time you go to use it, it actually won't work. Why is this? I assume because it needs to be warmed up first or something, in terms of like actual trying to rationalize what's going on. It's a very strange bug, but the good news is on your second use of said tool, it should work just fine. This bug is more strange and annoying than scary, but could definitely be considered as a weird mistake that was left in the game, as most bugs and glitches are. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more Minecraft lists from us, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Mystery items. Something that is strange that used to happen frequently in terms of mistakes being left was when developers would forget during updates to remove items from spawned players. Meaning when players updated their games, they would often spawn and notice that they'd have strange and random items in their inventory. This is because developers didn't have commands that they could use for items when playing around in the development stage. So instead, they would just equip them to players that they could then spawn and experiment with the items. However, when they forgot to take this out of the code before the update, this translated to players in-game spawning with weird mystery items with no idea as to where they came from. Kinda spooky. It got to the point, according to lead designer Jens Bergenston, that they would have to create a release document with a reminder note to remove these items prior to the update's release. That's how much of a problem it was for them forgetting it. Number 7. Duplicate any item. One of the glitches that had everyone talking in Minecraft 1.17 was the damaged anvil duplication glitch. This glitch allows you to duplicate any, and I mean any item that you want using a damaged anvil, a bunch of inconsequential identical items, and whatever you want to duplicate basically. You can duplicate even the most valuable of items and even do so with said items in a stack. In other words, you could grab a giant stack of diamonds and duplicate those on repeat until your anvil breaks, which has a predicted 12% chance of happening with this glitch. How is this scary? Well, because the possibilities here are endless. You could duplicate so many things. You could duplicate literally anything. Even scary rare items if you like. All the haunted creepy items that you could possibly ask for. I'm just thinking of like all the little like broken records that you can duplicate. Ugh. Number 6. Giant mobs. Giant mobs were initially coded into the game but later removed, probably because they were a mistake. Still, they became popular among certain fans who still look to specific commands and mods in order to include giants in their games. If you do happen to want this spooky, potentially mistake creature in your game, you can use the summon command to bring them up. They appear as giant zombies and are horrifying to come across, which is likely why they were removed initially after the 1.7 update, and likely why it was considered to have been a mistake to have included them in the first place. Number 5. Fistful of blocks, or rather, a lack thereof. This mistake that pops up in Minecraft 1.17 still seems to prevent you from grabbing blocks that should be or appear to be within your reach. While breaking blocks that you are standing on, it appears as though you should be able to grasp them even though they fall away from you. If you're fast enough, they still appear to break and the block pops upwards almost in reaction to your break, but even if you attempt to grab said block, if you are fast enough, it will not be attainable and will fall down to the level below nonetheless. This mistake is frightening in the sense of how annoying it can get, as it seems as though you should be able to grab the block before it falls based on the distance it appears to be from you momentarily. It's like some weird thing where you're like, is my hand phasing through this block? What's happening? And so you are forced to let the block fall below, and then yourself you'd actually have to go down and collect any blocks that you've broken. Afterwards, you've broken all the ones you want to break. This might seem intentional, but then why does it appear as though you could actually grab grab said block, like that's what it looks like visually. That's the part that makes it feel like this was a big mistake. If they didn't want you to grab it, they should make it literally look like it's too far, like it falls too fast. They have the tools, I'm sure, to do that. Number 4. Phantom mobs. While phantom mobs have never been explicitly considered a mistake by developers or programmers of Minecraft, many fans of Minecraft feel as though this creation was a mistake. The reason for this is that in order to avoid phantoms, you need to sleep at least once every 3 days, which many feel gets in their way of in-game progress and is hugely annoying. And if you choose to avoid sleeping because you want to work at night, your progress will still be affected by phantoms who will then spawn and distract you, of course, by attacking you, unless you've turned off the do insomnia game rule in-game. Phantoms are not just creepy and nightmarish, but they're also a major disruptor when it comes to gameplay for those uninterested in fighting them, which it feels like is pretty much everyone at this point. Number 3. Breaking bedrock. Bedrock in survival mode is intended to be an unbreakable material, unless you happen to be using cheats, of course. But even though it was never intended to be breakable without breaking the rules of the game, there are ways around this. No, I'm not talking about super strength, I'm talking about exploiting in-game glitches to punch right through and destroy this supposedly unbreakable bedrock. There are a few different methods that are still deemed usable currently, I believe. One is the TNT trapdoor and piston method, the other involves using portals or portals with clay, small drip leaves, bone meal, and shears, and another still involves powder snow. Bedrock was meant to never be broken, and yet exploiting glitches horrifically means you can do so with just yourself, some ingenuity, and some items and tools. Number 2. Phasing through bedrock. Phasing through bedrock is not usually something advisable in the bedrock edition of the game, and even outside of that edition is considered a kind of odd choice in comparison with breaking bedrock. However, there can be a few specific times that phasing through is actually preferred to breaking through unbreakable bedrock, although both kind of give you the same result in my opinion. You can phase through bedrock in a few different ways, such as using a boat or using a ladder in combination with an ender pearl, although the second method will damage you a bit on your arrival. I think there's another method where you can just use ender pearls, but this is another one that also could damage you because ender pearls. And you really do need to make sure you have clear intentions and are prepared before you attempt this, because moving through the bedrock leaves you on the roof of the Nether. If you are unprepared, there will be nothing there for you and no way out, meaning the only way to escape would be through death. Especially bad news if you're playing on hardcore mode. Number 1. Creepers. When creepers were made, it was actually not intentional at all. They were a mistake. The way Notch programs is basically all in code. He doesn't use model programs. When he created the creepers, it was therefore by mistake, as he had messed up the height of the creature that he had intended to be a pig. Hence why creepers have 4 little feet. However, Notch liked the design and decided to embrace it, turning the creature green and making creepers a thing. But still, originally these terrifying Minecraft-based monsters started out as a coding error. A coding error that was left in the game and then wholly embraced by, I think, many Minecraft players.
In a 10 dimensions update. The last time a new dimension was added to Minecraft was the 1.0.0 update that introduced the Ender Dragon and the final boss fight. Other than that, we've had no new dimension in the base game. I mean, sure, we've had mods like the Twilight Forest and the Aether, which are seemingly included in every mod pack ever, or at least the Twilight Forest is, but they're included in all those mod packs because exploring new dimensions is part of the excitement of a sandbox game. Mods like Mistcraft let you create your own dimensions using specific features, and that was insanely cool. And while we don't need something that's that extreme, another dimension would still be incredible, and something that would surely be talked about when we haven't gotten one in 10 years, and Mojang needs to do something big to be able to top adding the most powerful mob. Maybe they just add the Skulk dimension. And at 9, inventory management. Leaving chests aside, Minecraft doesn't really offer any reliable ways to store, manage, or carry your items. And considering how the game has more, like, actual things that you can hold than seemingly any other sandbox game, you definitely need a way to sort through the tons and tons of crap you will get while trying to find one diamond. It's possible that the Minecraft 1.2 update will actually bring a bundle-like item that will allow you to store a group of items within your existing inventory. And I mean, like, yeah, we have shulker boxes, but that just helps you move large quantities from one location to another, and it's not really meant for inventory management. Minecraft could also introduce a mechanic that allows the player to expand their default inventory. Maybe a leather backpack could be a reliable way to introduce this feature, and many other games offer offer similar solutions. The bundles that were teased still have yet to be implemented, and even when they are, they're going to be fairly limited. Whereas something like just being able to open a shulker box in your inventory would be a huge help, so that, you know, we don't have to place one down every time we need to just grab one item. It would be especially useful like underwater when you don't really have any blocks around to place the shulker on. Yeah, that'd be easy. In.It, the forest update. Minecraft's forests were introduced in the very first version of the game, and they haven't really changed since. There have been updates to literal hell before an update for the forests. Even swamps got an upgrade before forests, the most fundamental of all Minecraft biomes. And while we did get bees, that's it. That's the only thing really that's been added to the forests. But I and plenty of others think that they can do more. One question that I've been wanting answered is what happened to the original villages. You know, the ones from before Minecraft's 1.14 village and pillage update. I mean, there was like the perfect opportunity to turn these into ruined villages that we end up seeing in the game, and then give us a story that explains how the old villages got overrun, and then they had to go make a new village or have one made for them with better defenses or just better architecture in general so that they would be more protected, but the zombie villages now are the same as the current ones. The way to really remedy this in my mind is to just put those old villages in forests as maybe even a smaller version and call them overgrown villages where nature has kind of taken them back. There are no structures that generate in forests, and after the first night, forests just become a biome you travel through to get to cooler things. Something small like this could kind of bring these forests back to life, no pun intended. They could even include different variants like they did with jungles. You can have like an enchanted forest, a dark forest, or a dead forest. You know, you get that idea. Dark could be where mobs can spawn no matter the light level. Enchanted forest could give you like a regeneration or some small ability or buff, and dead forest can just be like no leaves and like low saturation grass, you know? Or maybe that's too close to Herobrine. And it's 7 proper combat. Right now, combat on Minecraft Bedrock Edition and Java is drastically different. The most common example of this is that how Bedrock seemingly didn't get a combat update. Like, they got 1.9 and end cities and Elytra, but you can still spam attack. You just can keep clicking, okay? But in Java, you have to wait after each attack, and then if you time it right, you get slightly more damage. Sweeping attacks are also exclusive to Java Edition because of this, and so are combat-friendly axes. Well, friendly is a loose term, and so are more damaging axes, I guess. Because of these differences, though, it becomes almost impossible for players to actually enjoy both editions of the game without learning separate combat mechanics. And trust me, I know this for a fact. Having to figure out Bedrock Edition just made me sure that I prefer Java, and hopefully the next update can put an end to that, because having to crouch to use a shield is ridiculous, okay? I know it's because it's supposed to be controller friendly, okay, but if I'm using a mouse, let me right click, okay, or let me keybind the thing, let me change the key binding, okay, because limiting me for using a PC is stupid. But you can get other editions if you have Bedrock or Game Pass now, so please just get Java, okay, and then join my server. It's a long story, but it has proximity chat. In.It 6 jungle update. Well, jungles did get a bit of a sprucing up, no pun intended, with the bamboo forests. These guys could still do with a bit more love, and plenty of Minecrafters agree, since I've been seeing jungle update ideas all over my Instagram feed recently for some reason. Before 1.18, okay, you had jungles, jungle hills, modified jungle edge, and bamboo jungle hills. That was it. But then after 1.18, you also have sparse jungle. And that's it. Jungle temples can only spawn in the normal jungle biomes on Bedrock and also in the bamboo jungles on Java Edition, but other than that, what really do these have aside, like, what purpose do these serve other than, like, giving you cocoa beans and then maybe a parrot? Okay? Other than that, we tend to try to avoid these things because they're just so difficult to navigate. There's a reason that nobody in Hermitcraft Season 7 built their mega base in the jungle despite multiple people having their starter base there, okay? It's just not practical. So, how about we get a little something more for these guys while also adding something else? Because a whole jungle update at this point might be a little much for the jungle when there's like a much better option on the table for what you could do with an update. Halfway through into number 5, unused mobs. Mojang has a history of creating conceptual mobs and then never implementing them into the game. For example, the Moo Bloom, hashtag rest in peace, or the Siren Head looking thing, okay? But you know what? What's truly tragic is the mobs that existed in the game but then don't have any purpose or spawn mechanic, or ones that just for some reason got removed. These unused mobs include the Giant, the Zombie Horse, the Elder Guardian Ghost, Illusioner, Killer Bunny, Jungle Villagers, and Swamp Villagers. villagers. Realistically, Minecraft 1.2 couldn't add all of these mobs into the game, but I mean, like, we still hope that at least some of these mobs can get at least a little bit of justice before something else. I mean, I don't know. But let's also remember the fireflies, which were supposed to come in 1.19, but then didn't make the cut for some reason. And if you're curious, swamp villagers are actually unable to spawn naturally since a village can't really spawn in a swamp biome, but they can be bred from what I understand, at least, and so can jungle villagers. And the Elder Guardian Ghost is exclusive to Bedrock Edition. It has the same model and texture as an Elder Guardian, but it uses the player hurt sound when hit, and it has less health, and it's missing the back tail model for some reason. And then when spawned outside of water, it floats upwards until it despawns. It will also pass through blocks for some reason, but in my head it's probably just the mob that they used to get the graphic for when the Elder Guardian gives you mining fatigue. You know, the Elder Guardian when it like comes past your screen, that's probably what it was used for, and then they just didn't fully remove it. Maybe because they have to keep it in. In it for the desert update. Minecraft's deserts are, well, deserted, okay? A desert pyramid, otherwise called the desert temple, is a sandstone structure that sometimes generates in deserts where, you know, you can find hidden chests containing loot, but it's also protected by a TNT trap. Being introduced in version 1.3.1, nothing has really been added to deserts since. This is the update that added the first version of villager trading. It also added emeralds, a better creative menu, and adventure mode. Yeah, 1.3.1 was released on August 1st, 2012, and since then, deserts haven't really been touched. It's been almost 10 years to the day for these dry guys. And while yes, deserts are meant to be, well, barren deserts, the least we could do was show them a little bit more love. Okay, we have fossils that can randomly generate underground in piles of gravel, so why not have them be a little bit more common in deserts, or maybe slightly exposed in deserts, you know? Why not add an oasis sub-biome for just that little bit of extra life? I go to a desert to find a cactus, maybe a temple, and then maybe the odd village or a dungeon who was close enough to the surface that the sand collapsed in on itself. And then I'm gone. Like, I don't stay there. The only other reason to go is a large quantity of sand, but if you're not making a giant build on an SMP, why would you do that? Okay, other than that, we don't really care for deserts, so show them some love, okay? You gave jungles a bit of an update. Help out my deserted boys, you know? Help him get his sands wet, you know what I mean? Okay, it's been a while for him. 10 years. Getting close to the end, into number 3, emerald tools. Emeralds, because of all the trading mechanics with the villagers, actually work as Minecraft's unofficial currency, but unfortunately, that's the only purpose they serve other than beacons. Even though emeralds spawn kind of in the same manner as other ores in Minecraft, well, at least in the sense that they're mineable ores, you can't really use them in any crafting recipes. This treatment of the emerald ore then kind of puts them in an undesirable situation, because I mean, why would you just dig one when you can go trade for a stack? And considering how Minecraft Dungeons actually has emerald armor, maybe we can get this, or maybe a recipe or something like that for the main game as well. If we were to get emerald tools, they would actually be probably stronger than iron, but not as strong as diamond, given that emeralds rank at an 8 on the woes scale and diamonds rank at a 10, woes standing for measurement of hardness scale, and given their spawning patterns, they would be difficult to come by until you had a villager trading hall, which after that you could basically just have a tool farm, which could slightly break the game, but given that you can also trade for diamond enchanted tools, maybe it wouldn't. And when I say that the generation for ores is weird, emerald ore attempts to generate 50 times per chunk in blobs of 1. So an ore vein for emerald is 1. From levels -16 to 320, being most common at level 256 and becoming less common towards either end of the range, going up or down. If you see a mountain that actually goes up to 256 or even past that, there's a high likelihood that there is at least a bit of an emerald there, because it also only spawns in desert biomes, or mountain biomes, not desert biomes, mountain biomes. But ultimately, in number 2, Spectator mode. We can actually confirm that a recent beta and preview for Minecraft Bedrock Edition contained early functionality for Spectator mode, which is a much wanted feature that somehow hasn't been added to Bedrock Edition as of yet. This will launch after the 1.19 update, because, you know, I mean, the 1.19 came out, I think it's come out for Bedrock, but they'll be testing it further in upcoming betas and previews, which is in essence the snapshots of Bedrock Edition for all my Java players out there. I don't know why these things are so different. I mean, like, I don't get it, especially with this, because like Spectator mode was added accidentally in 1.19 betas, but I don't know why it's not there yet. It's already on Java Edition and has been for a while, but will soon come out on Bedrock? like somehow it wasn't ready for the 1.19 update. And as Mojang said in a statement, quote, "The first iteration will not be finished in time for 1.19, so we will be moving it to an experimental toggle in an upcoming beta. Until we have a more polished version for you, please consider that any contents or maps built on this feature will not be supported, as this feature will change and evolve." I mean, I don't get it, okay? But it may not be ready for the 1.20 update, but there is a good chance that it will make it in. I mean, it's confirmed to come to the game eventually. How it's not in the game already, I don't know, okay? Maybe it's a conflict with consoles or Pocket Edition, but I can't see how that would happen. But anyway, screw Bedrock. And finally, hit number 1, an end update. While we did get a pseudo end update in 1.9, adding the additional end islands with an elytra along with the end cities and shulker boxes, but other than those 4 features, it didn't really do much. So a full end update would be very much appreciated, especially with some of the concepts that I've been seeing online, particularly 2 of them. First by IamPixel on Instagram, with a redesigned main island including an updated ender dragon, exit portal, and obsidian pillars. They also suggest a dragon designed elytra, as well as a new ender stray mob and a retextured enderman. They also suggest chorus trees and ruined end ships. These are incredibly cool and actually do seem to fit pretty well with the Minecraft story that they're trying to tell. The other one though is from Animal Mace on Instagram and is what made me want to do this list. This update would add a rare crystal biome to the end that contained void crystals, kind of like amethyst geodes in the overworld. You'd be able to open shulkers in your inventory, which takes care of the inventory management issues that we complain about. They also would add craftable link portals using void crystals that would be like a quick tube system that transports items and players, which would be incredibly expensive, understandably, but also very cool, and it's something that I've been seeing requested quite a bit. Ender whales that could also fly through the sky that you can ride, and if you do ride them, they'd take you back to the main island without you needing to guide them, which honestly would be extremely beneficial, especially if you run out of rockets or had like a near destroyed elytra. You wouldn't have to take the plummet to your death, especially if you're in hardcore mode, okay? And I mean, it would take a while for the whales to fly because it's a freaking whale in the sky, but it would still be incredible. Whale lords. Yeah, Yogscast fans know it. And a 10 first use fail. In Bedrock Edition, one of the mistakes or bugs in the game that you'll likely have seen is the one where you're not playing Java. Wait, sorry, wrong thing. This one is actually if you create a tool, the first time you go to use it, it actually won't work somehow. Why is this? No idea, really. I'm guessing that it's because that like it needs to like warm up something or first, like something like that. I guess what I mean is like the game hasn't registered you actually having made and actually holding the item for whatever reason. It's a very strange bug, but the good news is the second time you try to use it, it'll be fine. It'll work properly. This bug is more strange than annoying or scary or game breaking, but definitely could be considered a weird mistake that was left in the game. And you know what most bugs and glitches are. You won't see that in Java Edition though, just saying, okay? We have our own game breaking bugs. And at 9, hand glitches. In Bedrock Edition, there were initially some pretty creepy things happening when it came to how your hands interacted with items. Things like food, shield, tools, pickaxes, weapons, and stuff like that, and bows. They would move in strange positions on screen, going far off to the side or just disappearing completely. This would also affect your visuals when it came to holding a shield and crouching because, you know, that's how you block in Bedrock. Because the placement of the items seemed to bug out whenever you tried to hold them. Okay, crouching with a shield would therefore mean that the shield would appear to be larger and blocking more of your screen, which is not a good thing if you couldn't really tell, okay? Not only are these glitches annoying because, you know, they're screwy and it's not what you should be seeing, but they're also pretty creepy because, you know, your arms are giant and now they're also gone. So yeah, Java Edition, people. And at 8, duplicating items. One of the first glitches that actually had everyone talking about, well, duplicating at least, was back in 1.17, and it was a damaged anvil duplication glitch, okay? This glitch allowed you to duplicate any, and I mean any item that you wanted using a damaged anvil, a bunch of inconsequential identical items, and then whatever you wanted to duplicate. You can even duplicate the most valuable items in the game and then do so in a stack. In other words, you could just grab a stack of diamonds or netherite and then duplicate those on repeat and exponentially grow your stash. Until your anvil breaks at least, which has a predicted 12% chance of happening with this glitch as well. So it's not like inevitable, but it's a 12% chance every time. It's weird, okay? The possibilities at this point are endless. You could duplicate anything, even like literally god apples or anything you wanted. The only limit is your imagination. There's something similar in the game now as well, or at least it was, okay? It was in the game, I'm not quite sure if it is now, but it requires putting a load download of specific text into a written book, putting that book into a chest in a chunk, and then having a system that involves using that chunk to duplicate items, because due to that book, there's so much data in that chunk that it can't really save it properly, and it reverts it back to a previous state, which would contain the book along with whatever items you had placed in that specific chunk. So you could also use that to duplicate things. It got really complicated, alright? It used to be so simple. And it's 7 mystery items. Something that is strange that used to happen quite frequently in terms of mistakes being left was when developers would just forget that during updates to remove items from spawned players. Meaning that when players updated their game, they would often spawn and notice that they had like strange and random items across their inventory. This is very common when you update a mod pack. This was because developers didn't really have commands that they could use for the items when playing around with the development stage, so instead they would just like equip the item to players and then they would spawn with the items that the devs were experimenting with. However, when they forgot to take this out of the code before the update, this translated to you spawning with just a mishmash of items and yeah, being no idea where they came from. It also got to a point where, according to the lead designer, they would have to actually create a release document with a reminder note to remove these items prior to actually releasing the update. Yeah, it's not the same thing as a mod pack, but that was the closest analogy that I could have. You know, like when you have a load of stuff, but then you remove that mod and then all of a sudden it all becomes sand. Yeah, that's what it's like. And it's 6 fistful of blocks, or rather, I guess, a lack thereof. This mistake that pops up in Minecraft 1.17 and sometimes later still seems to prevent you from grabbing blocks that should be in your range, okay? It's a visual glitch, but like when breaking blocks that like you're standing on or maybe that are above you, it appears as though you should be able to grab them because you know they're laying on the ground right next to your feet and you know you don't have a full inventory. If you are fast enough, you try to pick them up, but then they keep glitching up and then falling back down as if they're in an infinite falling loop. And yeah, it's weird, and your reaction is usually to break the block underneath it, but even if you try to grab that block after such, you can't. It'll fall down, but you can't grab it. It's weird, but I mean, it's still in the game, and all you gotta do, it just got caught on something up higher, okay? So you just gotta look up, break the block that it would be on, and then you can pick it up. I don't know, okay? I don't get it. I don't know why this is a thing. I don't know why it's still a thing. We're in Minecraft 1.19, alright? We've been doing this for 10 plus years. Can we please just get this fixed? It's so annoying. Mojang, please. Okay, you can add frogs, that's fine, but can they like grab my items when they actually should be on the ground but aren't? Can they like grab them and then be like, here you go, okay? Can they do like an allay thing, but like just specifically when it's glitched? Please, for the love of God. Halfway through into number 5, giant mob. Giant mobs were initially coded into the game, but later removed, probably because, you know, they were a mistake. It's a giant zombie, so yeah, but they still became popular among certain fans who didn't like to use the mods or commands to actually spawn in these giants. If you do happen to want this spooky random thing in your game, you can just use the summon command / summon giant squiggly squiggly squiggly, and then boom, it's right on your face, okay? They appear as like, again, giant zombies, and they're terrifying, but they were actually initially removed after the 1.7 update, and it's considered to have been a mistake to have included them in the first place because they really never had a purpose. Giants simultaneously require a light level greater of 11 and then less than 8 in order to spawn. This effectively makes it impossible for them to spawn at any point, even in mob spawners, okay? Since, you know, you can't have something that has a light level higher than 11 but less than 8. That's impossible. Giants are also close to 12 blocks tall and used a 6 times enlarged zombie model. And because giants aren't actually undead, yeah, it's weird. They don't burn in the sunlight, they're damaged by potions of harming and healed by potions of healing. Iron golems do attack them though, like any other hostile mob, but giants don't convert into drowned, which seems fairly understandable, given that, you know, they're not really in the game, so why would they? And at 4, breaking Bedrock. Bedrock in survival mode is intended to be an unbreakable material, unless you happen to be using cheats, because, I mean, why wouldn't you? But Yogg's cast guarantee. There's a few people who understand that, and I appreciate you for it. But even though it was never intended to be breakable without, you know, cheating, there are ways to actually break it. And it's not really breaking it, it's kind of just like transporting it out of existence. I'm not talking about super strength, okay? I'm talking about exploiting in-game glitches to just somehow evaporate the block in its entirety. There are a few different methods that are deemed usable currently, okay? One, I believe, is like TNT, trapdoor, and piston method, which is the one that I've used in the past. Another one involves using portals with clay, small drip leaves, bone meal, and shears, and another involves powdered snow. I don't know those two though, so you're gonna need to look them up. Bedrock was never meant to be broken, and yet exploiting these glitches means that you can do so. Pretend that the blocks never existed, which is insane. And obviously though, do this with caution, otherwise, you know, you'll fall into the void and somehow die without really knowing what killed you, and then you'll lose all your stuff. Yeah, what is the void though? That is a very interesting question. Getting close to the end in number 3, phantom mobs. While phantom mobs have never been explicitly considered a mistake by the devs, many fans of Minecraft feel as though their creation was. The reason for that is that in order to avoid the phantoms, you need to sleep at least once every 3 days, which many feel gets in their way of in-game progress, which is weird, but either way, it's incredibly annoying. If you do to avoid sleeping because you work all night or you're underground or something, your progress will still be affected by the phantoms who then spawn on the surface and try to attack you unless you have a solid block over your head. But you can also turn off the do insomnia rule in game and then you just don't have to deal with them. They were just a mistake to add. Why would you do this? Okay, just pick one of the other things next time. God, like we always pick the stupidest mobs. Okay, we pick the phantoms. We pick the freaking glow squid over the moo bloom. Who does that? What's wrong with this community? I don't know. I'm always gonna be mad about the moo bloom. Okay, that would have been the best mob in the game, but you had to go and ruin it. But ultimately, in number 2, creepers. This one is actually very well known, which is why it's not number 1. However, it's still an incredibly interesting and crazy fact despite that, which is why it's at number 2. When creepers were actually originally made, they weren't intentional. The way Notch programmed in all the original code, he didn't use modeling programs. He just like input the dimensions into the code of the game itself. So when he was creating creepers, he messed up the dimensions of the creature that he was intending to be a pig. He ended up flipping the length and the height, which is why creepers have 4 feet. However, Notch liked the design of the creature so much, he decided to embrace it, making them a little taller, and voila, creepers were a thing. But still, originally, these terrifying, iconic Minecraft monsters started out as just a coding error. Another fun fact though, the texture for the creeper is actually just the original leaf block without any transparency, hence the seemingly random white pixels that are actually across its body. Those were where it would have been transparent, but he saved it as a JPEG instead of a PNG. Yeah, Notch took the model, threw a face on it, threw the leaf texture on it, and then boom. Pun very much intended. Like what? Did you think that it wouldn't be intended? You should all know me by now. You should all know me better than that. And if you don't know me better than that, obviously you need to hit subscribe. You haven't been watching enough Top 10 Gaming. Alright? Do it.
Please like and subscribe.
And finally, in at number 1, phasing through Bedrock. Incredible past segue for you to subscribe aside. Phasing through Bedrock is not usually something seen as a good thing in either edition of the game. And even outside of that edition, it's considered a kind of odd choice in comparison with breaking Bedrock. However, there can be a few specific times that phasing through is preferred to actually trying to break it, especially because trying to break it can be finicky. You can actually phase through Bedrock in multiple different ways, such as using a boat or a ladder with an ender pearl, or maybe just a well-placed ender pearl, and maybe not even needing the ladder. Although the second method will damage you a bit because, you know, it's an ender pearl. All you really need to do though is just make sure that you have clear intentions and you're actually prepared before this, because moving through Bedrock leaves you on the roof of the Nether where you can't get back down. And if you're unprepared, there's gonna be no way for you to get back except death, which is gonna suck if you're playing on hardcore mode, because, you know, it just becomes the end of your world. Unless you're somehow able to get some piglins and then trade with them for enough obsidian to actually build a portal home. And if you're lucky enough, you can get it in like 3 to 4 trades, but that means that you'd have to have enough gold on you as well as some blocks for the piglins to spawn on, given that they can't actually spawn on the Bedrock itself. So, you know what, just be careful. And then hopefully you bring a way out with you rather than just hoping to get lucky. Because trust me, that's not gonna work out well, and that's not a joke. No, seriously, don't do it. Have a plan, okay? God. And at 10, Pigman. A pigman is a pig in a humanoid form that originally were going to inhabit villages. Although not implemented, their skin can be found within the game files, and their zombified counterpart, the zombie pigmen, now known as zombified piglins, have been a part of the Nether since the Minecraft Alpha 1.2.0 Halloween update. It has the same dimensions as the player and has no coding present within the game that spawns it. Minecraft user Miss Lee was the one who came up with the idea for the pigman, and as a reward was given the bacon cape as a thank you. However, when more people started requesting custom capes, Notch took Miss Lee's cape away so that people would stop asking. Like, way to go, people, like ruining the whole damn thing for this guy. Damn. Notch mentioned on April 25th, 2011 that he might add pigmen as villaging townspeople, but in beta 1.9 a different villager mob was introduced. Regular pig models were also changed in beta 1.8 to have a protruding snout, but this doesn't really matter since now the pigmen are known as piglins and are an entirely new thing. Although these pigmen were also present in Pocket Edition, at least at the time of its release. I don't know if they're still in it now. And at 9, Diamond Chicken. Diamond chickens are like something a hacker would spawn into a server for like a YouTube video or something. Diamond chickens were a rare variant of chickens presented in the April Fool's Java Edition 2.0 that lays lapis lazuli or diamonds instead of eggs. Diamond chickens spawn under normal chicken spawning conditions, but not as commonly. I'd hope so. And since chickens were modified in 2.0 to display neutral behavior, diamond chickens were also neutral, but the thing is that they explode when aggravated, making them like potentially passive versions of creepers. They just look like a blue tinted version of a chicken as well. Nothing special about them other than that and what they lay. You couldn't make them look like a diamond block or something. You really had to make them just slightly blue. That's kind of lame, honestly, but since they explode, I'm gonna say that this counts as a monster. The term monster is being used kind of broadly here. The mob was removed after the April Fool's update of Minecraft 2.0, and honestly, I'm kind of disappointed that they did remove it, because that would be kind of cool. We're not even at like 1.20, let alone 2.0, so. And it ate the smiling creeper. The smiling creeper looks like a regular creeper, however the iconic creeper mouth is flipped, so it's upside down and looks like it's smiling. The creeper will also explode when close to a player, but will explode into poppies. The poppies could also not be picked up when they were on the ground. It's unknown if the smiling creeper did damage, since it was a part of the April Fool's 2.0 update, however getting hit with poppies in the face when they're flying at you from an explosion would definitely hurt. So I feel like it would cause the same amount of damage as a creeper, maybe slightly less, but it would actually have to deal damage, right? I feel like this creeper also was inspired by the Mo Creepers mod from back in the day. That mod introduced things like the dirt creeper that would explode and just create a ball of dirt around where it exploded and a whole bunch of other stuff. This creeper was removed after the 2.0 update. And at 7, the Killer Bunny. The Killer Bunny, which is a reference to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, is an aggressive variant of the rabbit exclusive to Java Edition that is hostile towards players, foxes, and wolves. Its fur is pure white and it has blood red eyes that are horizontal compared to the normal rabbit's vertical eyes. It can only be spawned using the /summon rabbit type 99 command, and it appears with a nameplate over its head that reads the Killer Bunny. If the Killer Bunny finds any player within a 16 block radius, it will hop towards them much faster than a normal rabbit. It kind of moves in like a spider kind of style. Once it closes in, it will jump at the player, dealing 4 hearts of damage on normal difficulty. If the player strikes at the Killer Bunny, it will run away for a moment and then return to trying to kill you. Kind of like a baby hoglin. Killer bunnies are also immune to the Thorns enchantment, and isn't that wonderful? This used to be able to spawn naturally, however can now only be summoned using the command I stated prior. And if the player renames a killer bunny to Toast, which is another rabbit trick that will change its skin, it will still attack the player and wolves. So it's not the name that does it, it's something in its code. And at 6, humans. Humans, known as monsters in the code, were the first mob ever added into the game. These hostile mobs looked identical to players with the Steve default skin. Human mobs would also generate in random places when a world was generated at pre-classic edition, a long time ago. Later, they could be manually spawned by pressing G while playing in classic mode. After both of these features were removed, they were only able to spawn using mods and map editors, but otherwise were not available in vanilla Minecraft. Humans did not drop anything when they died, and they moved in an absolutely absurd fashion. The best way I can describe it is it's like when someone who knows that they're drunk starts running away from the group to cause trouble or chaos. Well, that's the best way I can describe this running animation, or I guess it's the walking animation of the human mob. It's hilarious and something I really wish was still in the game. This is how every player should move, honestly. I'm sure that there's a mod that makes you see this animation that's like client side so that you can use it on servers, like how Optifine is client side. Yeah, I really hope that's a thing. The human mob was removed prior to the alpha release of the game and is the actual culprit of the removed Herobrine message that was present within the patch notes. This is the mob that they actually removed parts of the code at, and that's what they were referencing when they said removed Herobrine. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's actually pretty cool. Halfway through in at number 5, Pink Wither. The Pink Wither, or Friendly Wither, was a recurring April Fool's mob present in both Java Edition 2.0 and Snapshot 15W14A. In 2.0, the Pink Wither could be summoned by placing a potted rose on top of a pink wool. The newly spawned mob would only have 1 head, and the Pink Wither would follow players that were holding sugar. Feeding it sugar would cause it to grow more heads, up to a maximum of 3, like the Wither. As the Pink Wither moves, it also applied an effect similar to bone meal on surrounding surrounding blocks, it would also heal other mobs. The area affected also increased with the number of heads. That mob was a hostile undead mob. In 15W14A, the pink wither actually replaced the normal wither, firing skulls with a bone meal effect. Unlike the wither though, pink wither did not drop a nether star upon death in 15W14A. It was removed after both the versions it was present in, including the snapshot, which is unfortunate. We could really use another boss, honestly. In at 4, Redstone Bug. Redstone Bug was a hostile mob present in Java Edition 2.0. Redstone bugs spawned close to redstone that was rapidly changing between signal strengths or because you were mining redstone ore, but it could also be found spawning in strongholds. Redstone bugs are pretty much just reskinned silverfish, so they share all of their behavior, which I have to admit is really annoying because I hate silverfish. And this is mostly because of the nightmare difficulty from Fundy. I was playing it with some friends and we found a stronghold very quickly, so we set up a base camp nearby. However, we dug one silverfish block, and thanks to the nightmare difficulty, anytime you damaged them, the silverfish multiplied, which was horrible, and since they were in our base, they were spawn camping us. I ended up having to somehow use a command to kill them all before I died, and when I did, it killed around 1,300 silverfish. Now I actually despise them. Absolutely 100%, I hate them. The redstone bugs, however, would spawn in many different colors based on the redstone signal strength. That's actually kind of cool though. But lucky enough, they didn't actually keep them in the game, otherwise Mumbo's whole peace, love, and plants thing wouldn't really work, because he would have to kill a lot of bugs. In at 3, Original Strider. Now, while the Strider may be in the game thanks to the Nether 1.16 update, the original design for the Strider was the stuff of nightmares. The Nether is home to some of the most fearsome monsters you can find in Minecraft. Piglins, blazes, ghasts, and my cousin Bob, who refuses to share any of the ancient debris he finds on our adventures. And as his name suggests, Bob is evil incarnate, so he's in good company. The Nether is crawling with hostile mobs who won't hesitate to make you into pudding if given the chance. However, there is an exception, an adorable anomaly that couldn't care less about you, me, or Bob. We call this happy little accident the Strider, and while the current design may be the most adorable thing in Minecraft aside from pigs, the early Strider concept is absolutely terrifying to look at. The original design by Jabster Borstra is the stuff of nightmares, and I'm glad that they changed it prior to 1.16's release. And while the Grandpa and Grandma Strider designs, as Mojang calls them, are closer to what they are today, I'm still glad they didn't use them because they're also pretty creepy. And ultimately, in at number 2, Giant. Giants are unused, oversized mobs that just look like zombies. They previously only spawned naturally in InDev. No biome includes giants in their spawn lists, so they can never spawn naturally. The earliest available InDev build that you can access on the launcher also does not include giants in the global spawn list unless you're using mods. Additionally, giants simultaneously require a light level greater than 11 and less than 8 in order to spawn. This effectively makes it impossible for them to appear through mob spawners because, you can't have something higher than 11 but less than 8, Giants are close to 12 blocks tall, and they use a 6 times enlarged zombie model as their model because it's just a giant zombie. However, giants aren't actually considered undead, so they don't burn in sunlight and are actually damaged by potions of harming. Iron golems will also attack giants like they attack any other hostile mob. Giants also don't convert into drowned, which I think would be hella funny if they did. Like, imagine a giant drowned. That would actually be pretty cool. Giants also have no AI, and the consequence of this is that they always face south when they're summoned and stay that way, never wandering, turning their head, chasing the player, and they only actually move when something hits them. And they can only be spawned using the command /summon Minecraft Giant, or with mods. Finally, in at number 1, Nerd Creeper. The Nerd Creeper is probably the most confusing thing on this list, but it needs a little backstory. 3D Shareware version 1.34 is an April Fool's joke released in 2019, officially called Minecraft 3D. This version has many references to video gaming from the 90s, and this release is a fork of the game version 19W13B. According to the developers, Minecraft 3D Shareware version 1.34 is an old version of Minecraft released on April 1st, 1994, which is absolutely impossible because Minecraft only came around in 2011, at least officially released. And this version apparently only had a handful of copies that were ever made, one of which was discovered amongst the rubble laying in the basement of Mojang's old offices. It was said to be a masterpiece of its time, featuring cutting-edge technology that won many awards, although this is all part of the joke. It's like they tried to create a creepypasta that wasn't Herobrine because they were sick of hearing it. In this version of Minecraft, the creeper was given an NBT tag called BD20 that would either be 1 or 0, cause you know, binary, and that this would determine, quote, whether the creeper is a nerd. That's literally it. That's all the wiki says. Nothing else. No explanation as to what that would mean or how it's handled or even if they look different. Maybe we should do like a whole list on Minecraft 3D features, because that whole thing, that's a whole other can of worms. Would you be interested in that? Let me know in the comments. In at 10, stairs. Stairs are one of the most used blocks in Minecraft nowadays. Whether it's for a transparent block that looks like your wooden wall so you can still use your chests, or a faster way to get back up from the mines, or even as your roof, stairs are extremely popular blocks. However, back in the day, they were not anywhere close to as useful as they are now. Originally, the stair block was only intended to allow for players and mobs to change elevations without jumping. But when I say only, I mean only. Originally, the block wasn't even able to be sprinted on or placed on corners. I mean, you could place them on corners, but they wouldn't mold to the other stairs. It would just be like the full stair block. And yeah, you couldn't sprint up them. So great, right? You originally could only get them in oak wood, cobblestone, stone bricks, brick, and nether bricks. And to place them upside down, you had to place them on the bottom of another block, not just on the top half of a block face, on the actual like bottom of the block above where you're trying to put it. And if you want to experience this ungodly pain for whatever reason, play the Tech.It Classic mod pack on the Technic launcher, okay? It's from Minecraft version 1.2.5 before the stairs got an upgrade. And then after playing that, you'll probably thank Lord Talos that they changed it. Hey, you gotta love Talos. This is what the necklace is. It's Talos. All praise Lord Talos. In at 9, item codes. Item codes also weren't as simple as they are now, or I guess depending on who you ask, they were simpler. Minecraft Java Edition used to have numerical IDs for each of its blocks. For example, stone was 1, logs were 17, and planks were 5. Don't know why they came before logs, but okay. And each variant on that block was another number after the first one, with the two separated by a colon. So for example, spruce logs would be 17:1, birch would be 17:2, etc. Same went for every block and every variant. 1.8 completely removed these numerical values, which was great, because why should I remember the number ID for a command block if the only way to get it was using the give command? Why can't I just type in command block? However, 1.13 modified the IDs of many blocks, items, biomes, particles, paintings, and entities, statistics, and sound events, removing all numerical IDs, and then removing some block states, and then changed NBT tags and display names. This specific change was known as the flattening, which honestly in my head makes more sense for when they removed the numerical IDs, but whatever, that's fine. This also made it easier for modders to make their items, since they didn't actually have to come up with a random number for their items, which might interfere with the numbers from another mod or something like that, which would cause crashing and incompatibilities. Since now stone is Minecraft:stone instead of 1, meaning that any mod item will have its name before its item name. So the copper from Buildcraft and Galacticraft would be different despite being the same metal. It would be Buildcraft:copper or Galacticraft:copper. In at 8, combat. Right now, combat on Minecraft, Bedrock, and Java is drastically different. The most common example of this is how Bedrock seemingly didn't actually get the combat update. They got 1.9 and its end cities, but you can still spam attack on Bedrock, and in Java you have to wait after each swipe. Sweeping attacks are also exclusive to Java Edition because of this, and there are combat-friendly axes in this case, and yeah, a bunch of different changes. And because of these differences, it's become almost impossible for players to enjoy both editions of the game without learning separate combat mechanics. Like, trust me, okay, I know this for a fact. Having to figure out how to play Bedrock Edition's combat made me absolutely sure that I prefer Java. Hopefully the next update can put an end to that, because having to crouch to use a shield is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, I know it's like for controller friendliness, right? But if I'm using a mouse, let me left click, or just let me right click to block, okay? Or let me bind the key to my right click, okay? Because limiting me because I'm using a PC is stupid. In essence, if you want to play the old combat, don't use a shield in Bedrock Edition, and then you can still spam click, which was the normal fighting style until 1.9 in Java Edition. And at 7, Nether portal sizes. Nether portals are definitely different now, especially where size is concerned, which sounds incredibly weird given that phrasing. But originally, Nether portals could only be 2 blocks wide and 3 blocks tall. And by this, I mean specifically the interior, the part that actually becomes the portal. The frame had to be 4 by 5, not including the corners. Or I guess including the corners, but you didn't have to have the corner blocks in the frame for it to work. And the portal had to be lit using one of the bottom 2 blocks. However, after version 1.7.2, they can be as big as 23 by 23 blocks, but still can't be smaller than 4 by 5. So your portal itself can now be 3 by 3, but not 2 by 2. And it can be lit from any block, the sides or the top. And honestly, that was the only update that Nether portals got, really. Until 1.16 when the ruined portal structure was added. But yeah, after the release of the game, the Nether portal had gotten 2 updates, and 2 updates only. For those of you who don't know, you can actually use Nether portals to travel long distances in the overworld. If you don't watch any SMPs like Hermitcraft or the like and were unaware, 1 block in the Nether is equivalent to 8 blocks in the overworld, meaning that moving 125 blocks in the Nether is 1 kilometer in the overworld, or 1,000 blocks. And if you divide the overworld coordinates by 8, you get where you need to place the portal in the Nether for you to get a proper link, and vice versa. But that's nothing new, that's fairly common knowledge. Let's moving on. And at 6, the end. The 1.9 combat update, like I said, wasn't really a combat update. It was closer to an end update than an actual combat style thing. Out of the 22 additions to the game in 1.9, only 6 of them were actually combat based. Sure, some mechanics were changed, like the skeleton AI and sword blocking, but only 6 of the 22 new features were focused on combat. The majority of them were focused on the end, and that caused a load of changes from the original version of the end that we all knew and loved. Well, we all knew. This update added the additional end islands that weren't the main one, end cities, elytra, chorus fruit, dragon heads, shulkers, and gateways. Hell, I mean, this update even added the cages around some of the end crystals, and the ability to resummon the ender dragon. And not just that, this update also added dragon's breath attacks and the ability to collect it for potions, the ability to craft end crystals, it added end ships. Basically, everything we know and love about the end now comes from this update. The main reason to go to the end is because you want this stuff. It's no longer just to fight the so-called main boss of the game and gain 60 XP levels one time and then maybe make an ender. Now you go for all this stuff. So yeah, the end is going on this list. Halfway through into number 5, the Nether. I mean, for anyone who played Minecraft prior to its YouTube resurgence, we all know how the end used to look. Horrible. There was a reason we all considered it the hell of Minecraft. A seemingly infinite mass of weird netherrack that kinda looked like flesh, but in a weird mini wheats or shreddies kind of way. A dimension where you really needed something like Sphax in order to actually handle it properly, at least on your eyes. There was nothing there aside from nether fortresses and a lot of lava. The only reason you would normally go there was to get stuff for potions or to go to the end, but not to gather resources unless you wanted to make something out of nether brick, which would cause you to mine 3 fortresses just to have enough blocks. But now, after 1.16 and honestly even before that, the nether really gained a purpose. After the redstone update introducing comparators and more, we flooded to the end to get all the quartz we could carry. But not only for these new mechanisms, but also because we finally had a solid white block that wasn't wool or snow to use in modern style builds. This block also had a slab and stair form as well, giving us even more variety than snow or wool. And then with the 1.16 update, the Nether got a new lease on life. With plenty of new features, it basically became unrecognizable. I gotta tell you, okay, I was playing the snapshots with my girlfriend at the time. The amount of gas that spawned in the soul sand valleys was absolutely insane. Okay, I'm glad they cut back on that by a lot. because that really was hell. In at 4, zombie pigmen. Speaking of the 1.16 Nether update, zombie pigmen are not what they used to be. Like, literally. Like, what we knew as the zombie pigmen are now known as zombified piglins and are not the same mob, which Mojang has made very clear despite them sharing the same behavior for the once iconic mob. The reason I say this is because zombie pigmen could appear rarely in the overworld when lightning strikes within 3 to 4 blocks of a pig. And while this mechanic was left in as a reference for older fans, Jeb has stated multiple times that this is not a canon feature of the zombified piglin, meaning that these are truly zombie piglins rather than just evolved and zombified pigs. The piglin species as a whole honestly also kind of looks similar to how Captain Sparkles had zombie pigmen depicted in his Fallen Kingdom saga of Minecraft music videos, with like their ears being added in the 2015 Find the Pieces song, I'm pretty sure, with the Nether update not coming out until around 2020. So many do assume that this is where Mojang got the idea for either the mob species as a whole or specifically the ears. Getting close to the end, into number 3, villagers. While nowadays villagers are passive mobs that inhabit villages, work at their professions, breed and interact with each other wearing outfits that vary according to their occupation and biome, that a player can trade with using emeralds as currency, originally they were nothing more than a mob that you could take your anger out on. When first being added in the 1.0.0 release, villagers had the same AI as pigs and had the name testificate displayed above their heads like a player name. Villagers had 5 professions indicated by their robe color, with any number after 4 giving them a green robe, something that we now know as nitwits. In 1.2.1, villagers were finally given the ability to open doors and repopulate villages based on the number of houses, but everything changed in 1.3. 1.3 added the first system of villager trading, which was honestly a nightmare, but it was a step in the right direction that personally I remember freaking out about when my friend told me. And then in 1.14 we got the village and pillage update, which just truly fixed villagers, to an extent at least. I mean, they're still difficult as hell to work with, but they don't breed based on houses or doors anymore, instead by the number of beds. They have set trades after making 1 trade at least, and then they don't remove any after they've been used 3 times, which was a thing that could happen. They just run out of stock temporarily. Basically, villagers now are nothing like they were back in Tekkit Classic or even MoonQuest days, since all the Yogscast used them for in MoonQuest was getting cool hats. Thank God they got updated, okay? It took a while, but still. Better late than never. But ultimately, in at number 2, textures. While yes, there have been plenty of texture changes throughout the game's lifetime, I don't think that there are any updates that changed it as drastically as 1.14. While yes, it fixed villagers, it also fixed a load of the textures that we had to deal with just because we were used to them. And when I say a load of them, I mean it. A majority of the items and blocks had their textures updated, and just generally for the better. For reference, the list of items that weren't updated is much shorter than the list of ones that were. Netherwort, blaze rod, and blaze powder items still use their old texture, as well as chests, trap chest, and the Christmas present chest variant that shows up in December. That's everything that wasn't updated. The rest of the items and blocks were. Some were definitely needed, like the brick and netherrack textures, and some kinda seemed pointless, like log, stone, and chiseled stone brick, which honestly I don't see a difference with, but I think the additional minerals like andesite, granite, and diorite really needed the update as well, and I much prefer the newer textures over the older ones, especially netherrack, since it still does like have that fleshy vibe, but it's also lost the whole shredded wheat thing, shreddies thing, okay? It had that kind of feeling, which really hurts your eyes if you're in the nether for too long. Imagine having to leave hell because it's ugly, and not because it's, like, hell. Yeah. And finally, in at number 1, Pocket Edition. Minecraft Pocket Edition was the former title of the Bedrock edition of Minecraft developed by Mojang, released for mobile devices before 1.2.0. Pocket Edition introduced the Bedrock engine, which was later ported to non-mobile platforms for the other 4 versions of Minecraft, the Windows 10, Gear VR, Apple TV, and Fire TV editions. And then to assist with clarification, the Minecraft community just refers to these versions collectively as Bedrock Edition, due to Bedrock being the name of the C++ codebase from which they all derive. The game on mobile was released with graphics akin to that of Java Alpha Edition, but that was really the only difference. Originally, the Pocket Edition version didn't even have a nether dimension, and instead you had to use a structure called a nether reactor. The main feature being a nether reactor core, which could be made with a line of diamonds in the middle column and iron on either side. Nether reactor cores could be used to create nether reactors, which would generate a square tower made of netherrack centered on the reactor known as the nether spire. This was the only way to get Netherrack in Pocket Edition until version 0.12.1, where the Nether was added. So yeah, definitely come a long way.